With us here today, we have three departmental experts: Valerie Gideon, Senior Assistant Deputy Minister, First Nations and Inuit Health Branch; Anne Scotton, Director General for the Ontario Region; and Sean Mackey, Regional Manager, Environmental Health Services, Ontario Region. Valerie will now provide an update, and then all three will take your questions. Valerie va maintenant donner une mise à jour et répondra ensuite à vos questions. Over to you, Valerie.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for making yourselves available. I'll just provide a short update from the statement that the department had issued. Well, I'll speak in English. Si vous désirez que je répète des informations en français, n'hésitez pas de me le demander. So we've been working with the community and the Tribal Council since we became aware of the state of emergency last Friday around 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Our focus has been to provide support to the community members on site in their community by ensuring the availability of medical staff as well as the availability of medical transportation for those who may require it, whether that's for emergency or non-urgent circumstances, as well as increasing the availability of potable water to community members for personal hygiene or also for consumption. We've also been working with the Matawa Tribal Council to expedite the repairs to the existing water treatment plant or water treatment infrastructure within the community. Our intention is to minimize disruption to community members by working with the Tribal Council on ensuring that there is short-term repair to the community infrastructure. We know that the Tribal Council has located a replacement pump that is available and is going to be in the community very shortly, and we expect that the community infrastructure will be back up and running by Wednesday of this week. We've also confirmed with the Matawa Tribal Council that they will have an environment health officer available in the community tomorrow to do testing of the water, as well as maintenance staff, and they are also going to be traveling their overall responsible operator to ensure proper running of the water treatment plant in the community. We've also offered some support to community members that have been evacuated to Thunder Bay. We've confirmed that there is a Provincial Emergency Operations Center officer on site to support those community members. The Matawa Tribal Council is also available to offer on-the-ground support. We've confirmed the availability of services through the non-insured health benefits program of our department, as well as availability of mental health services through Anishinaabe Nation, which is also funded through our department. And we have confirmed that the community physician and coordinator have ensured that community members that would require medications in Thunder Bay to continue medical treatment would have access to those. In addition to addressing the short-term disrepair issue, we are continuing to offer support for finalizing the construction of the new water treatment plant, which was announced in July 2017, an $8.8 million investment by the department. We do expect that the construction will be completed and the plant commissioned sometime this fall, and that the chief will be in a position to lift the drinking water advisory at that point in time. We will be sending a departmental official tomorrow to the community to support a meeting specific to expedite the completion of the new water treatment plant. So that is my update, and we'll now open it up to questions.
Thank you. If you have a question at this time and you're using a speakerphone, please lift your handset before making your selection. If you have a question, please press *1 on your telephone keypad. To cancel the question, please press the # sign. Please press *1 at this time if you have a question. There will be a brief pause while participants register. Thank you for your patience. And the first question.
Hi, I was just wondering, so the tap water that's coming out of their taps now, is that considered safe? Is any testing being done on that, and where is the potable water source coming from? Is that bottled water or from the community's RO unit?
Sure. So I'll answer the first question. There is a short-term boiled water advisory that has been recommended by the Matawa Environmental Health Officer that the water be boiled for up to a minute And at that point, once it's cooled down, it can be used for personal hygiene purposes or for consumption. With respect to the source of the potable water, Anne, do you want to answer that one?
So there's potable water in the form of bottled water, which has been supplied to the community for some time. We are, as well have learned, and the environmental health officer may wish to comment on it, that the water that is in the system now can be used either for bathing or for drinking purposes for consumption if boiled for a minute. That's our information currently.
Sean Mackey, did you want to add anything?
No, there's nothing really further to add other than to reiterate that, yes, the water coming out of the tap now, if boiled for a minute and allowed to cool, can be used for drinking or personal hygiene.
Okay, what about what happens if people are exposed to it then without it being boiled?
Sean, do you want to take that one?
Well, sure. Well, the water itself comes from the lake. It goes through the water treatment plant before it is piped to people's homes. So right now it would be akin to lake water. It would be no more dangerous than that. And obviously it goes through the filtration process to make it clean, and it goes through a disinfection process to remove any pathogens in the water. Now the water plant itself hasn't been producing great water, which is why the community is receiving a new water treatment plant. But the water that's coming out of the tap now, again, shouldn't be consumed directly. But if you were to say splash it on your skin or be exposed to it in that, we don't anticipate there will be any problems with that.
We've not found, or Matawa Environmental Health Services, as far as we know, have not found any bacteriological contamination of the water. Sean, can you confirm that?
That's correct. The information we received from Matawa is that the last set of tests done by the water plant operator in the community came back with 0 total coliform and 0 E. coli bacteria, which are the usual indicators that we use for potability.
Okay, I have a second question. Specifically, the conference call with the Chief and Council on Saturday, what was their request? Was it for assistance or to cover the cost of evacuating? And why was that request denied?
So we've offered, of course, support to the community for the community members, whether or not the chief decided to self-evacuate. Because there are no immediate health or safety risks to the community members, the department's advice to Chief and Council was to minimize disruption to community members, knowing that this issue could be repaired in a very short time frame. And so with the boil water advisory, where people can use the water after they boil it for 1 minute, with the increased availability of potable water through bottled water supply, which can be available as needed and can be increased as needed and paid for through the department, that was our advice. Now, of course, the chief did opt to self-evacuate community members, and so we have confirmed with the chief that we will continue to offer that support to community members remaining in the community and offer our support to those community members that have been evacuated out.
Okay, so just to clarify, when you say you've offered that support or assistance to those in the community, you're talking about the recommendation they boil their water before using it?
Well, also the availability of medical staff, the availability of transportation for any community members that require additional medical attention outside the community, as well as working with the tribal council to expedite the repairs.
Are there any dollar amounts really associated with that support you're offering?
So, at the end of the day, we will look and see what services will have been utilized by community members. I think medical transportation is paid for directly by the department. The nursing staff are departmental employees, so the department incurs, of course, those costs. I think we have committed to funding the Tribal Council for the repairs that they will be managing if they require additional resources.
Yeah, on Friday night immediately.
Yeah, that's right. And additional water supply as may be required in the community just to support their access to water for personal hygiene and consumption purposes. So we don't have specific dollar amounts. We're essentially going to be covering those expenses as they come forward.
Okay. One more question. I know that this is a technical meeting. However, how do you respond to reports from community members and leadership that boiling water and using bottled water to bathe and cook and consume is just kind of dehumanizing and there's no dignity in that and violation even of their human rights?
So I think our focus is that this is a short-term issue, that we are focusing on ensuring that the repairs will be made through the excellent support services of the Matawa Tribal Council. It's a disrepair of community infrastructure, but the department is confident that the issue will be resolved very quickly and is temporary, and that remaining in the community was the least disruptive option for community members, as we're talking about a couple of days. We also are very much focused on fulfilling the government's commitment to a new water treatment plan in the community. And as I said earlier, we're expecting that water treatment plant construction and commissioning to happen this fall, very shortly.
By mid-October.
By mid-October. And then the chief will be in a position to be able to make a determination on lifting the longer-term advisory services that have been in place in the community for some time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from James Murray. Please go ahead.
The problem with the water, when you became aware of it at 6 o'clock on Friday night, what led to the problem? What exactly happened?
It was essentially a failure of the water pump that has been in place, and the water pump is in a cement structure, and essentially it operates as a water pump does to pump water, and the pressure as a result of the failure of the water pump, the pressure decreased in the system, and so water was at a lower pressure in the homes in the community.
The second question being, early reports were that 1.5 liters of water per man, woman, and child was being made available. Is that accurate?
The water, bottled water supplies are based on Health Canada guidelines that have been in place for many years and are the same provisions that we have in place and have supported and contracted for in other communities. And Neskantaga had asked for bottled water some time ago. It was immediately approved, and there is a contract in place with Matawa Tribal Council for bottled water. It has been being delivered, and I think it was Saturday's call, we said if more bottled water is required because people need to or feel they need to wash with bottled water and don't feel comfortable boiling water for personal hygiene, that would be the case. I think there's been some continuing discussion of how much is enough, and you can't have a shower with bottled water. I think that's understandable, but our suggestion was that in the for this very short term, that sponge baths and personal hygiene could be managed with bottled water. Yeah.
So a question for all of the technical experts is, would you try a couple of days at 1.5 liters of water for all of your uses, for cooking, for drinking, for making coffee, for bathing, and for washing dishes and clothes?
So I think there is water available in addition to that. It just requires to be boiled for a minute.
Yeah, no, and we've committed, both Saturday and Sunday on our calls, we've committed to increase the amount of water available, and nobody has ever questioned that it must be limited to 1.5 liters per person. That's not at issue. Under these circumstances, we have said that we will increase the provision of water to whatever is required by the community.
From the chief and then from community members, we've been all told it was 1.5 liters per person per day. Do you care to comment?
Yes, until Saturday, that's what was being supplied, and on Friday, when we had the declaration of emergency, we reviewed the situation, and we have made it clear that, in particular, for people who have any health issues, for medical emergencies, for people who need to have clean water for any kind of treatment that they're undergoing, dialysis, for instance, that water would be made available in the amounts that are required for that person. And that was reiterated on the call on Sunday as well.
You'd said that the department will be supporting people who choose to remain in the community and supporting people who chose to evacuate to Thunder Bay. What kind of support is being offered financially for the people who've evacuated to Thunder Bay?
So the chief and council have organized for hotel rooms to be available for the community members. There is a provincial emergency operations center official there to also identify any other needs that community members may have, as well as the Untitled Tribal Council and the Anishinaabe Aski Nation on the mental health side. We have the non-insured health benefits program, which is available to community members, and we can help them to navigate access to that. So there are a variety of supports that have been put in place by different organizations and partnerships. We've also offered, if there's anything additional, the department does have some on-site staff that can provide some surge capacity to assist community members.
But my question was, what was the dollar figure?
So we don't have a dollar figure because the chief and council have been making arrangements directly to support the evacuation of their community members. So while we're not involved in the logistical details, we're going to continue to speak regularly with chief and council so that they will identify what will be their requirements for future support, and we will review those.
In Northern Ontario, how many other First Nation communities and other communities have boil water advisories in effect?
There are 42 long-term drinking water advisories in northern communities in Ontario at this time.
And this one you're hoping will be over mid-October when the new plant is completed?
Yes, we've been working with the community for over 2 years to ensure that the funding is available and that the construction has taken place in order that the new water plant will be functional. We had hoped that it would be functional as soon as May, but there have been some procurement and construction difficulties that the First Nation experienced with a previous contractor, and the date has now been moved forward to mid-October. That is the First Nations and the Untitled Tribal Council's estimate through the project manager.
And we have somebody traveling up tomorrow for actually a project management meeting specific to the new water treatment plant to make sure that the momentum is continuing.
And when will our next technical briefing be held?
If it'll be based on need or demand or questions coming in.
Jay Miigwech, thank you.
Please press star 1 if you have a question. And the next question is from Jeffrey York. Please go ahead.
Hello, I just want to clarify the current situation in the community with the low pressure because of the breakdown in the pump. Is it true the chief and council are saying that this means that some houses don't have any water at all in their taps, that the pressure is so low that some houses are receiving nothing? Is that correct?
I don't think I could contradict if the chief is telling you that. I'm sure that he's basing it on his knowledge of the community.
Untitled Tribal Council is traveling up tomorrow to do a fuller assessment. They're sending up their environmental health staff, their maintenance staff, and their overall water treatment plant responsible operators. So I'm sure they'll be able to share also the results of their technical assessment with our department as well. But so that is why we wanted to ensure that there was an increased supply of bottled water in the community.
Okay, but I just wanted to run past you what the chief was saying, because just in case you had any contradictory information or whether I can rely on what he's saying. He also said that because of the breakdown in the pump, so some houses had no water and other houses had what he described as unfiltered water, which I guess comes straight from the lake. And he said that that meant that the chlorine level was 0.0. So in other words, there was nothing being added at the regular water treatment plant. Would that be correct?
Our understanding is that the chief informed us on Saturday that the chlorinator, which clears the bacteria from the water, has not been functioning until September 4th. We were informed of that on Saturday. Obviously, this is of concern because that is the primary treatment of the water that comes from the lake. But I think, as Sean, my colleague, mentioned, the water that has not been treated with chlorination is not demonstrating any bacteria levels. So our major issue, or the major issue that was the subject of the declaration of emergency on Friday at 6 p.m., was that the water pressure had decreased to a point where the community was not experiencing the usual water levels that would allow them to, in particular, undertake personal hygiene and use the water for purposes of domestic purposes, cooking, etc.
Okay, so does that mean that the water pressure is either nil or just a trickle for a lot of houses?
Well, I think it is a trickle. I mean, it's not as, it's maybe 20 to 30% of the normal water pressure in the system at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. There are no further questions at this time. I'd like to turn the meeting back over to Mr. Olskamp.
Great, thank you. We'll now end the technical briefing. Thanks to our spokespeople and the media for your participation and interest in this matter.